One, so we can officially get started. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second event from the ACT-IAC Networks and Telecommunications Community of Interest in 2024. So if you're new to the COI or you're new to ACT-IAC, I'd like to extend a warm welcome and encourage you to continue to get involved and participate in these events. Just by way of background, ACT-IAC is one of the few intergovernment and industry organizations that provides a safe space, if you will, for engagement between industry and government, and has a long and proud history of working together to advance ultimately the mission of government. The Networks and Telecommunications Community of Interest obviously focuses more on the areas of interest related to telecom and of course networking, and are engaged in a number of different activities. Of course, we're thrilled to have you this afternoon to talk about SD-WAN, but this is a follow-on, if you will, to our previous SD-WAN discussion. The Networks and Telecommunications Community of Interest is engaged in a number of different activities. Of course, we will continue to look to offer up to the greater good relative to panels and other engagements such as this. But we also engage in projects that are directly impacting the mission of government. Two of the projects that are ongoing for the Networks and Telecommunications Community of Interest in 2024 include the operational use of non-terrestrial networks. That's something if you're interested in cellular 4G, 5G, low Earth orbit satellite, or other wireless, microwave free space optics communications. Please raise your hand and volunteer. We'd love to have you participate on this use case and project. Another project we're engaged in 2024 is one of a lot of interest, and not just in government, but it's the retirement of legacy copper networks or TDM circuitry. And likewise, if this is an area of interest to you, whether you're on the industry side or of course on the government side, would be thrilled to have you participate in one of these projects. Links to volunteer to participate are on the ACT-IAC website, but you can also get engaged and participate in more of the Networks and Telecommunications COI events there as well. For today, we're really excited to have a esteemed panel, and like I mentioned before, we're a continuation of the conversation relative to SD-WAN, and I'm going to hand it off to Lee Moser, who's going to introduce the panel subject and the panelist and moderator for this afternoon. Lee?
Thanks, Stephen. So yes, good afternoon all. Thank you so much for joining us. Stephen had mentioned this is our second panel of a two-part series. Last month's panel was SD-WAN from a government perspective. Today's discussion is the road to the future, a vendor's perspective, so kind of hitting it from both sides. So really looking forward to this informative discussion, and we'll hear directly from OEM representatives as they discuss their solutions and more importantly, kind of what the future holds for SD-WAN and where are we headed. So we're very lucky today to have Robert Sears moderate this discussion. Robert is the director of the NWAVE program within the Office of the NOAA CIO. Additionally, Robert is the co-chair for ACT-IAC, the NNT, and also the chair of the Federal Task Force for IPv6. So again, very lucky to have Robert as part of the team, and turn it over to you, Robert, to introduce the rest of the panelists.
Great, very good. Well, thanks folks for participating. Yeah, we should hopefully have a good, lively discussion here today. As it was mentioned from my colleagues, we did have the previous SD-WAN from the federal side. We had federal folks in the hot seats, and now we have our industry folks here. So we're gonna jump right into it. I'll introduce first our panel members here. So we have, let me get my notes here. So Tom Vail, engineering leader, U.S. public sector for SD-WAN at Cisco. Welcome, Tom. Don Troshynski, make sure I didn't mess your name up. Hopefully that's right. Chief Technology Officer with Juniper, and Felipe Fernandez, the Federal Chief Technology Officer at Fortinet.
So correct, and not CTO at Juniper, but specifically the Session Smart Routing platform and SD-WAN platform as well.
Got it. Got it. Very good. Very good. Sorry, my mistake. My notes might be a little bit older, but thank you for joining. And one of the good things is in my program, use all the products across your vendors, yourselves here. So we got Juniper experience, Cisco experience, and Fortinet. So I'm very familiar with the product line. I'm not going to dig too deep into it and let you guys talk on your specific areas yourself. So let's jump into this. I'd like to first kick off, the panel with asking you to take a few minutes, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, giving your assessment of where where you think the U.S. government stands in the overall effort to adopt software-defined area networking. So, what are the drivers, and what are the top implementation or impediments that you may see as when you look at, from your perspective of the federal government moving to SD-WAN? And I'll just say, I'll start, Tom, with you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Robert, for moderating in the ACT-IAC Networks and Telecom in Community of Interest for the opportunity to share my perspective with the community. In my opinion, the government is in many different phases for their migration to SD-WAN. Was there a question or?
No, I think we just had a little hot mic there.
Yeah,
so sorry
no
about
worries.
that.
No worries. We're in many different phases that I see the government being in their migration to SD-WAN. Some agencies have been primarily focused on a migration from networks to EIS with what I would call a paper swap, and others are keeping the overall design of the network the same, looking to transform their network later. There are other agencies who took the change in contracts to transform their network from the start of the contract, taking advantage of single truck rolls and looking to reduce complexity and add security to their branches. Some agencies have been running SD-WAN for years already. I would say the top drivers for SD-WAN projects are to reduce complexity. And for example, an agency who has a couple dozen different network segments taking the migration to SD-WAN to remove complexity from their network while adding firewall services to their branches, adding redundancy to their branches, migrating devices and workloads to IPv6, and focusing on improving their users' experience. Taking operational savings is another key driver. It can mean reducing costs by leveraging multiple cost-effective transport paths or using the orchestration and standardization that SD-WAN brings to maximize the efficiency of their IT staff. Some agencies want to self-manage, some agencies want to move to a managed service provider. I would say the top impediments to moving to SD-WAN are a lack of standardization in an agency and sometimes the fragmentation inside of an agency. An example would be where different sub-agencies control their own decision-making authority and have different priorities or ideas on what and when an SD-WAN project would be beneficial. While there are technical ways to address these types of challenges, the perception and priority inside of agency are roadblocks from projects really taking flight.
Great. Thank you, Tom, for your perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, I know it is when you have certain agencies that have, like I said, the sub-agencies, subdivisions, those things get really complex. So SD-WAN can be a saving grace in that area if you can coordinate it correctly. So great.
Yeah.
Don, what are your thoughts on the values and any impediments to SD-WAN when you're looking at the federal space?
Sure, Robert, again, thank you for the opportunity to share Juniper's story today and participate in the panel. We're super excited about the future of SD-WAN and specifically in the government agencies. I see sort of different levels of traction depending upon whether it's sort of DoD intel or civilian agencies. And I will say, part of that might be driven by, the need or requirement. And so what we see in some of the DoD intel is that there's a very clear operational requirement for SD-WAN style technologies. So you've got, the ability, there's the basics of multi-path and mesh and creating, prioritization, but really it's that resilience, failover, survivability, and transport independence that is really an immediate problem for some of these warfighting networks. And so, you look at a tactical deployment and you see an opportunity for resilient communications to provide that transport independence. And, the business case is essentially, saving lives. And so, the cost of an extra circuit to have a resilient communications, creates the business case. So we see pretty aggressive adoption there. We see a lot of RFI activity. There is I think I heard the sort of paper, analysis, analogy there. We see a lot of activity in civilian agencies, but we also see a more complex challenge there as well. And so, it's much more like a large enterprise network, a huge variety of applications. And so, some of the challenges there have been, scope. Is it SD-WAN or is it full stack and switching? Is there a unified user experience we can provide there? So some of the impediments that we've seen there, in fact, I actually put complexity as an impediment to some SD-WAN deployments. As mentioned previously, segmentation is a challenge, but that can become even more complex with a tunnel-based technology that's deployed with SD-WAN. So trying to meet the requirements with additional technology and complexity can be an impediment. So the operational resources, need to learn a whole new set of technologies. Around the standards, I feel pretty good about it. I think that, the agencies have learned how to specify standards without restricting vendors and their use of them. Certainly, we can point to, some developing standards around session smart and secure vector routing, but, traditional standards, the traditional routing standards still hold strong in an SD-WAN deployment for interoperability across domains. IPv6 has put a bit of a wrinkle, for some agencies trying to tie it to the program, but for many years we put v6 into the product and the programs, just for that reason, and to provide flexibility. We also see, impediments is really adoption of cloud-based technologies, where agencies now open sort of the door to a whole new set of security policies, but we've been able to solve some of that with GovCloud and cloud-based deployments where we're no longer restricted to premise-based, but sort of sorting out what's on-prem, what's in the cloud, the timing of the adoption of the cloud, the leveraging of AI there, it is has slowed down some of the civilian agencies, I'd say.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge when you have a lot of the product line, or a good majority of in these really great value driven assets like the different orchestration, the utilities that are better operating in a cloud environment, especially when you start talking about AI and being able to get a community of all the feedback and different hooks into what other customers may be experiencing, and better overall that the performance of that orchestration or the controllers, whatever the main functions of the SD-WAN software portion is. So and sometimes they're not quite FedRAMPed and you're trying to get there. So definitely understand those challenges, and preempted me a little bit on v6. I was going to throw something in there a little bit later, but we may come back to that. So Felipe, let's get your opinion on that when we talk about values and impediments.
Yeah, certainly. And in an effort to not be repetitive to my colleagues here, I think we'll focus here on cost, number one, right? A big driver for implementing SD-WAN technology was to reduce costs. And it bleeds a little into future questions that I think I'm aware of, but ultimately SD-WAN is a technology in the SDN portfolio that allows agencies to lower costs on their WAN links, increase reliability and resilience, which I think is a hot word right now just throughout cybersecurity in general. And that's to be expected with mission critical applications or business applications increasingly moving to the cloud, executive orders demanding that they do so. I think that's ultimately where SD-WAN has really taken hold in the front of mind of CIOs and CISOs, and making sure that if they are going to move applications to the cloud, how do they make sure that, number one, they're accounting for the cost potentially to implement new technologies, which, as we know, most of executive orders don't come with additional funding, so they have to account for that somewhere. And then also, how do they incorporate this into the security strategy of the access to these applications or the data itself that's housed in the application? Certainly, there are frameworks, government standards that have been built around providing assurances around that for, let's say, cloud native technologies or solutions. But also, what about the user's journey to that cloud data, right? How is that secured? And that's where secure SD-WAN and that concept has been incorporated in the market today. So, I'd say, to summarize, really, the drivers, one of them we have to acknowledge is cost, and also the impediments could also be cost, depending on the size of the agency, what their preferred route to market is, or route to adopting the technology is. Some prefer to go it alone, as Tom mentioned, and they want to control more of it. They want to manage it. They pride themselves in engineering expertise and excellence. Great. Some of them acknowledge that some service providers can really provide exceptional acceleration in the adoption of this technology to ensure that, number one, they can meet their own agency's needs, they can reduce their costs, and they also can meet the orders of the executive order.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'll say within our NWAVE program, the SD-WAN products that we end up deploying were a driver based on mobility and low and cost, hard to reach areas. Basically, is kind of where you can't get a traditional circuit, and case point, Alaska, we got assets all over the state, in middle of nowhere, and a LEO or a 4G, 5G, and it kind of leads into our ACT-IAC project on operational use of non-terrestrial networks, but being able to take advantage of multiple WAN methods that may not be the traditional circuit. So maybe there's an ISP, maybe there's a LEO, maybe there's a 4G, 5G, and the combination of all of those cohesively brought together in an SD-WAN platform to take advantage of that. I think many of you talked about resiliency. So that definitely, from our perspective, that was one of the drivers. Is SD-WAN had that flexibility to allow us to create a service to meet a specific need, quick deployment, what's in the area, what can we use, and turn those over. So great, thank you all for your points on that. We'll jump into this next question. So Felipe, since you were just up, I'll throw this over to you, and then we'll go around the horn again. Are there specific steps agencies can take to prepare for SD-WAN transition with personnel, budget, mission resources? So your opinion on the agency transition to SD-WAN.
Sure. So, as agencies actually start to, get to the SD-WAN wicket in their priority list, I think it's really important to look internally first, right? Know your network, know your mission requirements, know your mission and your network limitations. And that's really an important factor in that assessment when you are ready to look at what Gartner's saying about SD-WAN and technologies and what they can bring to your organization, or talking to other CIOs about their experience with vendor X, Y, or Z, and also suffering from feature glut in the documentation or the proposals and solicitations and all that. You really have to understand what you are doing, what your needs are of SD-WAN before you can accurately assess what the market is going to put in front of you in terms of what SD-WAN can do. So really just taking a step back, looking internally. You mentioned LEO, GEO. Do we have any of that? Could that leverage some SD-WAN capabilities? The answer is yes. But you have to look at all of that. Do we have closed networks? Do we have classified networks that don't connect to clouds? Do certain vendors are they unable to support in those environments? There's all types of constraints to deploying SD-WAN potentially, depending on your preferred vendor and what they offer. But you have to know yourself first, and then you seek, the help of others. And I think really that's what agencies need to do, is really focus internally, really understand what their mission is, what the constraints are of their environment, and then look outwardly there and look for help.
Great comments there. Yeah. Know your networks, know your infrastructure. That's sometimes hard for agencies, right? Especially if they're got a lot of subdivisions and downstream units. So, Tom, how about you? There's any recommendations, steps agencies can take to prepare?
Yeah, thanks. I would absolutely agree that agencies coming prepared with an assessment of their environment is pretty critical early on. In addition, I would say bring all the stakeholders early. So groups that govern the network, your cybersecurity groups, your application and cloud infrastructure groups, bring them to the table right away. The earlier they're involved in the process, the more they can have influence and share their priorities and making sure that the project is moving forward at a very quick speed and actually solving multiple business challenges. I think you can definitely choose a strong technology partner like Cisco Systems, who can best fit the agency's needs, priorities, and budget constraints. Consider factors such as scalability, security features, certification requirements like FISMA, FedRAMP, FIPS, TA, impact level, compliance, DOT and APL, air gap capabilities, IPv6 capabilities are all important to really think of in addition to the stated goal of potentially saving money or using it as a transition period. Another good one is also look to really get your IT staff on board and train them. If you're going to self-manage, train them so they're very familiar with the technology early on. That will help in the design phase. That will help in the POC phase as you go forward. If they're a lot more comfortable with the new way of thinking and capabilities of the tool, or if it's a managed service, ensure that you're integrating to the agency's governance tools and reporting requirements. So you're getting that feedback loop and holding them accountable and making sure that they're hitting your needs. And then the other is, I would say, really use this transition to enhance the security of the agency. You can use it to add visibility to the user experience. So you can really see what users are doing, how they're using the WAN, and making sure that the WAN is responding and providing the experience that they need. So take advantage of that and add to the capability of the network and making sure that it's giving you everything you need.
Yeah, definitely great points. And that's something I know I stress within our program is that testing side and the training. And we've worked with all of you folks in our acquisitions, and that to make sure we have training. One of the things we really push, we have a lab within our program where we actually fully test a lot of these services, mocking up our entire infrastructure. So for you federal folks on, I know it's hard to do that, but if you can really set aside some funding and space to mock up, and then there's a lot of virtual technology now. All the vendors here have ability to virtualize the environment, so you don't have to buy every piece of router, switch, whatever firewall hardware. You can virtualize that and then mock up your environment and do testing. So that's something that I definitely am a proponent of. Don, I'll give you the last word on that, on the agency transition.
Sure, I agree with Tom in many ways, around bringing the stakeholders to the table to know yourself right before you begin to explore the the options there. But that sort of goes along with really the concept of scope, right? And so traditionally we have sort of divided up, say, wireless switching, WAN, security, cloud, infrastructure. All of these, tend to be managed by different teams. It's where Tom mentioned bringing the stakeholders together, but truly consider, the scope of the effort. We see RFIs out there, and they'll say we need, segmentation, multipath, mesh, resilience. But then, as the sort of the footnote, you've got sort of operations and troubleshooting. And I believe that one of the big benefits of SD-WAN should be around improved operations, definitely improved visibility. The traditional sort of generate records and try to process them approach, has not proven itself in the networking industry, through the years. So you want to look at the scope. So are you looking at a full stack? Can we do more with SD-WAN by having end-to-end user experience visibility from the wireless components, from the switching, the SD-WAN and cloud? Can we bring those together, and security as well? We can bring all of those together and provide a truly integrated operational experience. So don't forget, to truly consider that operations component of an SD-WAN deployment, because it can truly, that's where a lot of the cost savings will come from over time. So that's where I'd recommend. Also, of course, consider cloud. Are you absolutely disconnected, operations and unable to consume cloud? We've had financials in the past say, well, no, we cannot configure a device using a cloud-based management system. So we go with a combination of on-prem, and then they look and they say, well, yeah, maybe we could process some telemetry using AI in the cloud. It's an operational benefit, but it's not necessarily a configuration management. So consider not if cloud can play a role, but how cloud plays a role in your SD-WAN deployment, and not if cloud, but when cloud, right? And so I think that's a huge consideration. Of course, we believe that an on-prem solution for a disconnected environment makes a lot of sense, but think about how you can augment that with some cloud technologies.
Yeah, definitely, really good point. And I know that's something else within our program. We starting out in a on-prem with the goal to move to more of a cloud-based, and I think a big piece of that, what you mentioned, is that end customer experience, right? When you have the ability to have the telemetry, the end-to-end operational connectivity, and some of the tools that we've seen leveraging AI to be able to troubleshoot and see things before there's actually an issue with the end user. You're grabbing all of this information, and you can only do it with the machine learning, the AI aspect, right? It's too much, too fast, the quantity of data that you need to digest, and you can't do that with our brains. So you need those smarts.
AI native.
Definitely good points.
All about.
Great. So I'm going to throw this out there to anybody. Security's come up. We've talked, you just talked a little bit about, SD-WAN and security, and that's definitely in the marketing, right? It's more secure or maybe more flexible. I'll let anybody take the next question. Let's dive a little bit more into security. What is those aspects of SD-WAN that make it more secure, say, than a traditional MPLS network? So anybody want to jump on it first?
Happy to jump in.
All right, fine.
Yeah, it is. It's an opportunity, right? And so, we see an opportunity to bring together some of the security tools. We also see SD-WAN as a tool to augment the network with additional security technologies. So we did a deployment where we were able to, I don't know what the best word for it is, but sprinkle security capabilities across the end-to-end network. And SD-WAN provided the freedom to leverage and consume those security components where they are in the network. You need a session smart network to do that. Security loves symmetry, right? And so, SD-WAN can provide that opportunity to augment and sprinkle that security capability around the network. Segmentation and encryption, these are pretty fundamental capabilities from, traditional IP networking. You should not give those up. But security, does in part come from encryption, not from IPsec, right? And so, you don't want to confuse the two. And so, you really do want to look at ways you can, again, augment and enhance the security capabilities. We are building in, literally merging security and SD-WAN components into the same platform to make it easier, but we don't restrict how and where and when you deploy those components, and even the hardware that might restrict your ability to deploy those components. So, yeah.
Great. Makes sense. Felipe, Tom, any comments on?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to expand on that a little bit. Totally agree that the SD-WAN network devices really are that foundational security component. So the Cisco SD-WAN devices are not just network devices; they're fundamental security devices, running next generation identity-aware, application-aware firewalls, IPS, IDS, anti-malware, just to name a few security services that you get when you deploy the solution to run at the branch. So a single box can do both. This helps, increase the agency's visibility of the network that traverses the network. But also, in addition, a core principle of an SD-WAN product is security for sure. And so the fabric itself is really what I would call a zero trust from the start, specifically meaning that network devices are interrogated to see if they're really part of the agency's network, Are they running assigned and untampered software? That hardware devices have a trusted platform module and is not tampered with. And if it's a virtual or software device that has a valid signed certificate from either your trusted public or private enterprise PKI certificate authority. The other part is, I think SD-WAN really allows for agencies to look to adopt TIC 3.0 style traffic routing, where traffic has typically been bound to go, that's destined for outside of the network. It typically had to go through the data center. TIC 3.0 and the advantages of SD-WAN really allow us to look at concepts like direct internet access or direct cloud access. So again, you can use the on-box security services, or you can look at cloud-based security services, commonly called SASE or SSE. Our Cisco SD-WAN product integrates with leading SSE, our Cisco leading product, which is Cisco Secure Access, but we can also integrate with third-party SASE or SSE vendors, leveraging the built-in automation and completing advanced health checks to monitor, really make sure they're using the optimum routing path. So you really get to choose where I want to insert that security, where do I want to deploy it? And maybe it's a combination of doing some things on box, depending on the use case, or doing some things in the cloud and creating a complete end-to-end story for either a hybrid worker or just even workers that are always going into the office.
Great points. Felipe.
Yeah, I think my colleagues helped make my point for me. Secure SD-WAN is a term that we use here at Fortinet. And that's because, we deploy or we incorporate SD-WAN technology in the same next-gen firewall that's, a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And now the SD-WAN technology is also a leader in the Gartner WAN Edge Magic Quadrant in terms of execution. We certainly believe that, applying industry-leading security capabilities at the earliest point of detection is absolutely critical. So being able to implement security at the SD-WAN technology at the product is really important. Number one, you save yourself from threats propagating throughout a network. You can stop malicious files as soon as you can detect them with the SD-WAN technology. And even in those hybrid environments where your security strategy is, let's say, multiple technologies, you do anti-malware somewhere else, you use another a SASE vendor, or you use FortiSASE, doesn't matter. I think it's really important that you have the capability there to respond to threats, even if they're detected elsewhere. And that's another part of the Fortinet security fabric, right? So if you have other technologies that are doing some advanced detection and you want to share that threat intelligence with the SD-WAN technology, that also prevents you from getting blacklisted by your ISPs or something like that, because all of a sudden your network is a challenge for the rest of the globe. It's important to have a technology that implements both, the SD-WAN and security capabilities, and that is the path we've chosen here at Fortinet.
That's great. And I think I heard it echo across a lot of what all you said. The flexibility, the augmentation. It's not an all or nothing, right? You don't have to be like, okay, now I gotta do SD-WAN. I gotta look at the entire end-to-end infrastructure. I gotta. Although we talked about assessing and knowing your architecture, knowing your various infrastructures, you can augment what you have today. And because of that flexibility, I know within our group, we run a national MPLS network, and it was trusted internet connections. We have a very, very good control, but it was these small sites we really needed to look at, but make sure that they are still secure. Because if we were going to use, a regular ISP service or a satellite or a 4G, 5G, we wanted to have that same level of security as somebody that's on an optical dark fiber directly connected to a core network. So being able to augment that offering has been something really great, and leads to that flexibility. And I like seeing all the product interoperability, the open standards. So that's really great. It gives the government a lot of options to look at the technology and find out what fits best for them. So on that, I guess keeping now with moving to the values, the benefits of SD-WAN, I'll pick on Tom, and then I'll go around to everybody. So we talked a little bit about cost savings when you look at MPLS. What are some of the areas? What are some of the components that kind of drive that down, if you will?
Yeah, there are quite a different components. I mean, the first obvious one I think can absolutely be circuit savings, potentially looking at using using internet circuits instead of dual MPLS or dual guarantee transports. Using what's available and using a more commodity style certificate is absolutely there. Operational efficiency is really another key driver there. I have an example I can think of a federal agency that was able to get to 100% ROI within 12 to 18 months, and really depended on how quickly they could roll out the circuits and convert them over to Cisco SD-WAN. But that's because the agency had a very resilient network with no single points of failure. So the circuit savings was very dramatic, and you could see it very, very quickly because you had two separate providers running guaranteed transport, running high speeds. And so by just picking even one of those off and using a guaranteed transport and a commodity based, the savings were very dramatic very quickly for that agency, not even looking at anything else that SD-WAN brings. But I would argue that it's not a typical ROI. So we actually did a study with a third party to show that over a 5-year period for our customers, most customers are able to get a 402% return on investment, which is really awesome because you're looking at things like network performance, the cost of the WAN connectivity, network management, staff impacts, unplanned downtime, help desk, the troubleshooting process. All of those components together help drive costs down. And so it's more than just looking at circuits for sure.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. But that is a big chunk sometimes.
It
Don,
can
what's your
be,
thoughts
yeah.
on that? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree with Tom. You're really lucky if you already have the circuit resilience and your SD-WAN program is really out there to better leverage that circuit resilience that you have. But that's been one of the challenges is, okay, we can now leverage active circuits or multiple active circuits. Those come at an additional cost. So is that part of the SD-WAN equation? Absolutely, it can be, but it can also be a way to increase bandwidth to the application. So you really do need to look at the problem set and see where your cost savings can come from. And what we see in the medium and long term, that truly is around operations. So is the SD-WAN solution AI native? Right. So does that SD-WAN solution provide you? So you could buy a license for a tunnel or a routing protocol. You can buy a subscription to a platform. What does that bring with it? Are you bringing AI native technologies along with that subscription? Think about all of the servers, the clusters, the microservices, everything that needs to be in place to leverage AI. Is that part of the equation? You can literally save a lot of money on the backside, the maintenance, the operations, the troubleshooting tools, just by having that in your SD-WAN subscription from the very beginning. And so we see, the medium long-term really comes from operations, being able to integrate technologies, full stack technologies, right? Being able to operate it with the same folks doing wireless, doing switching, doing SD-WAN and security, and then having the AI tools so that, you don't necessarily need a PhD network architect to troubleshoot the network. You could begin to leverage AI native technologies, things like a chatbot that says, what's wrong with my network? Are there any unhappy users out there? Is it the application or is it the network that's causing me problems? This will save a lot of time and money over time, and truly deliver that operational cost savings of SD-WAN.
Definitely. Yeah, that really makes sense on the operations side. Felipe, I know covered a lot of the big topics here on cost, but would you like to add to it?
Yeah, ditto to what my colleague said here, but I'll say, one of the things we pride ourselves here at Fortinet is the cost savings is immediate. Deploying a brand new Fortinet SD-WAN architecture throughout an environment is usually lower than the cost of renewing with whatever the legacy router technology they have deployed in the environment, and that immediately reduces costs. And then so you compound that with the short-term, long-term, and all the operational cost savings. And of course, SD-WAN brings a lot to these agencies. And we talked about it earlier. they don't get additional budget with these executive orders. They don't get a 33% add every year to deploy new technologies. So, the medium long-term, cost savings is sometimes difficult for them to fight for without TMF or other type of funds that allow them to incorporate new technologies, without much of the usual constraints of procurement. So, how do you defeat that? You have to offer the technology in a cost model that makes sense for their budgets right now. And Don brought up PhDs. You shouldn't need a PhD to go through the licensing model either. So, you can't have something that, is charging for every megabit or everything like that. And one of the things we pride ourselves again is that SD-WAN's included with the Fortinet FortiGate, right? And that is the next gen firewall. That is the SD-WAN technology. It's all included. There's no additional license to turn it on. And so that's why, the cost savings is immediate. And so we just think we have an advantage there in the market.
Understand. Yeah. Yeah, again, agencies looking at what fits for them. What's I know that's a big, a really good point. The life cycle refresh, right? When you're up against either sticking with the product you have, looking at that next available technology. What gives you not only the immediate ROI, but those capabilities that are beyond, just today, right? The 5-year, the 10-year, where you're, what's going to be the network of the future that enables your mission. So something that, us federal agencies really have to look at continuously. Like I said, the funds don't come out of the sky with the mandates. You have to adjust and be agile there. So it's really good to hear from you all about the different offerings and where that might be an enabling factor for the agencies. I'm going to shift real quick and take a question that popped up in the chat. I think you guys have seen it, and I'll let anybody jump on it first. So it says, can the panelists recommend how an end user can simplify, decomplex a proposed SD-WAN deployment in order to minimize attack surfaces and make management simpler? So I think we've touched on a little bit here and there about operations and various things, but anybody want to take a stab at the question here in the chat?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. So certainly we believe session smart technology is a way to simplify security. So when the solution, the end-to-end solution that includes SD-WAN, is session smart and session aware, you understand every user, every experience, and that also gives you visibility into attack surfaces, the traffic on your network. So we built our SD-WAN solution from the ground up to be really a zero trust networking device. So traditional routing technologies will simply by having a route pass traffic, and you've got to go back and kind of reverse security into the solution. You got to say, here's my access control list, right? You're breaking access control. So by having a zero trust foundation that says we're not going to steer traffic, from the internet inbound, I've got a stateful firewall and visibility there. You're reducing that attack surface. Essentially, nobody can send a session unless you've said that it can send a session, right? And so that's a great way, kind of a zero trust routing approach, to SD-WAN that will minimize that attack surface. And of course, being session smart, not trying to add, GRE, IPsec, VXLAN and MPLS to do security by simply fingerprinting that session with secure vector routing metadata, carrying that context through the SD-WAN can bring drastic simplification. You're routing with words now. You're putting context around that session. I know where it came from, where it's going to, and that context carries through the network. So you've literally eliminated any attack surface from an unauthorized user or session just by deploying a zero trust SD-WAN.
Definitely very powerful there. Tom or Felipe, anybody want to add on to this question here in the chat? Going once, twice. All right, great. Very good. So let me switch back over to some questions I had in my back pocket. I think that they're nothing's going to be a curveball here. So when you're working with federal agencies, across the board here, have you seen any common interests, the things that keep coming up, the things that you're getting requests for? Hopefully IPv6 is in there, but have you seen kind of that, the common interest across various agencies when they're coming and learning about the SD-WAN offerings? And Tom, I'll ask you that one, and we'll go around after that.
Sure. Yeah, some of the common things, it's IPv6 is absolutely something that's picking up more and more steam. Security is a key component. Adding security, adding visibility, securely getting users to wherever their workloads are located. So, there's more and more adoption of cloud inside the federal government, and so making sure that we can securely get them to the cloud, but also efficiently get them to the cloud. So leveraging local breakouts has been something that's super helpful in going straight to the cloud and making sure that, these wonderful collaboration tools we use like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Cisco WebEx, making sure we're routing that smartly and not breaking that traffic. So we're providing the best user experience to making sure that we're communicating together. And then it's increasing the visibility of that and making sure that agencies are aware of what's happening on that network. Again, back to the zero trust and component of it, it's making sure that the traffic that goes to the network is allowed to be on that network, and making sure that we are applying proper security standards and making sure that that the agency is getting exactly what they planned for, and that we're looking to secure that going forward. So
Great, very good. Thank you. Felipe, any common themes you're seeing from the federal agencies, common interests?
Yeah, certainly. And for the agencies that have done a lot of research, right, they're asking us, okay, well, I do understand how SD-WAN can lower my costs. I do understand how it makes it more resilient, my access to the applications that I've moved to the cloud or that I've become dependent on and adopted ever since, my cloud migration strategy as dictated. What they wanted to make sure of, though, is, if we implement security, because security, of course, is top of mind for federal agencies, does that actually impact what I'm actually doing with SD-WAN? If I'm implementing the security technologies that are going to be required to offer, direct access, right? So to take 3.0 branch office use case, right? Things like that. How do I let those folks go straight to the cloud instead of coming back to my campus network with some assurances, but also not defeat the enhanced user experience I was striving for in deploying this SD-WAN technology? And so, obviously at Fortinet, we have custom ASICs that actually help us, offload these security processes and do it at all in the same component in the same SD-WAN technology. And so that's something that is coming up frequently with the customers. SD-WAN, first and foremost, is to enhance the user experience, not make it so latent on these networks. Making sure that remote offices getting to applications is a very fast experience. They're more productive that way. Otherwise, we've all heard, you try to go to a website, you try to do your job, and then you go take a smoke break, you come back, and then the website finally rendered, right? So that's not the case when you deploy SD-WAN with Fortinet, right? And to include the security technologies, right? So that's something that really comes up quite a bit. IPv6 does come up quite a bit now, especially this and last year. SA has ramped up dramatically, and the use cases have really increased as well. It's not your typical, we connect to the ISP and IPv6, and we just want to support it natively like that. They have all different types of use cases, all different other technologies they want to incorporate with the SD-WAN as well, and that's really been important for us. And we've introduced more and more features, with IPv6 compatibility, particularly in the SD-WAN arena, and management, of course, as well. And that's been really important for us to keep up with. But other than that, I would say, Tom really hit the nail on the head. I'm sure Don has some additional examples for us.
Great. Yeah, Don, let's turn it over to you.
Sure. I went back and looked at some of the paperwork, I guess, to answer this question. And it is a lot of the traditional networking technologies that we see, being requested. So segmentation, right? And, and how do I, segment out, keep traffic, communities of interest, enclaves, how do I keep them separate? What they don't necessarily ask is, how are you doing that? And can you do that across the end-to-end fabric in a very scalable and usable way? But we'd like to see more of, how do you do segmentation? So encryption, of course, some folks, request the ability to support IPsec, but typically always looking for a FIPS 140-2 or 3 level encryption capability. So you absolutely need to be compliant. It's really hard to go back and kind of rebuild the libraries to support FIPS. So we feel FIPS from the ground up is extremely important. We see it requested. Multipath, load balancing, application-aware routing. That, to a great degree, is table stakes to an SD-WAN solution. Essentially, otherwise you're essentially implementing a tunnel-based sort of last-gen technology. So yes, the absolute ability to control these applications. But what we would like to see more of is visibility into these applications, right? So can I do resilience and failover for DIA circuits and provide some level of visibility into how that application is performing? So we do see requests for resilience failover. We see mesh every once in a while, depends upon the the environment, and scalable mesh. The ability to scale up that mesh is critical. SLAs, prioritization of traffic, clearly, that's important. But it would be great if the network could also adapt and understand. If it's AI native, it understands that user experience and can potentially remedy prioritization or SLA issues automatically. So certainly routing, centralized control, which is interesting. That almost implies that there's interest in leveraging cloud-based technologies. We see absolutely V6, the OMB mandate isn't going away. It's been 25 years in the coming. I think I'm finally on board after 30 plus years in the industry. It's absolutely critical to have a product that supports V6 and the ability to route V6 in the overlay, in the underlay. You may have a V6 circuit you simply want to use for transport. You may have a vast V6 domain that you'd like to be able to transport over V4. And so, we'd like to see a little more specifics around, V6, but it's absolutely requested. And then reporting and visibility, it's always in there, but you see so many times there's sort of this cut and paste from the old RFP that says we need syslog and netflow and all this, but what we'd like to see, those types of requirements, reporting and visibility is translate into AI native, right? And so is your solution AI native from the ground up? Did you build it with AI capabilities, microservices, the ability to share telemetry across microservices, process that telemetry, and then truly tell you what's going on with the user experience? Do you have operational tools that are AI native? Do you have a large language model that can help you find documentation, or again, help you find and troubleshoot that, that critical application? So, we see a lot of requests around that. And of course, security and zero trust. These are foundational as well. They're absolutely critical to an SD-WAN deployment as well.
Definitely great points. And I think that in my 30 plus years doing networking and between military and government, I'm really seeing that maturity. When you talk about AI and these things, and you look back over product life cycles, and when it first started coming out, the value wasn't there. You couldn't really get that tangible. Yes, this has solved that problem. The monitoring, the visibility, standardization, all that definitely becomes one of those cost areas where if you can standardize deployments and configurations and all that across a vast majority of your network, it saves that time, it saves that money. And then troubleshooting time, that troubleshooting something before it happens, getting that detailed analysis really is going to be that enhance that capability where you don't have to keep growing your team. And we've definitely been dealing with a lot of that, where we don't have to put every time we have sites and services, have another engineer, right? The core team can continue to manage more and more of those end sites because they're all the same. They're getting deployed that way. So definitely
DevOps and automation, it should be requested more, right? Do you have, great APIs and standard APIs with which you can work with and do more with less? Yeah, it's a good one.
And I'll make that, make those recommendations to the federal folks that when you're writing your requirements, don't just dust off the one that you had before. There's the new technology there, and definitely take advantage of this automation and these tools that these find vendors here have, really, dig into those things, because those are going to save you money. And on the topic of IPv6, I don't have to ask it again. I thank you all for making sure that it's part of your product line, that you're helping enable the government to make that transition per the OMB 21.7. And as the chair of the task force, that really makes me feel good. And I'll probably call on you guys to come and talk to our task force folks at some point. And we'll do a summit in the summertime. And I know I've spoken at some of your events, so I'd like to continue to make sure that our partnership with making V6 a factor in the product line continues. So again, thank you all for just on that topic of V6. So as we're getting close to the top of the hour, let's do this. Let's all just, I'm going to ask you for your closing remarks. What do you want to leave here today with? What do you want to convey to both the federal and industry folks here? Kind of your 2 minutes of departing words. So Felipe, we'll start with you, and then we'll go Tom and Don and close it out.
Sure. Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Tom and Don. This has been educational for me to hear your side of this as well. And thank you all for whoever's listening and watching. So, I'd say really quickly, I think convergence is the key here, right? We're seeking to make networks architectures more simple, easier to manage, less complex, to not only provide the experience and connectivity that is required for our users to applications, for federal governments to their customers, which is all the citizens of the United States and anybody else using their applications, and also securing all of that, right? So it's really critical. So it's key that you're, selecting solutions that are down selecting solutions and ultimately deciding on solutions that allow you to converge, further simplify the management, operational overhead, and obviously something that fits within your budgets now and into the future. These technologies need to be adaptive, extensible. They need to grow with you. You should be looking at technologies that have a history of innovation and continue to do so. And ultimately, that should be the guiding light, if you will, of technology selection, starting with SD-WAN, something that can grow with you as your mission changes, as your architecture changes, as your budget changes and your personnel change. You need something that can, grow into an SD-WAN solution and grow beyond that in the future. And so, with that, I'll just leave it to my colleagues here to take advantage of the remaining 2 minutes that we have before the top of the hour.
Great, thank you. And Tom?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Don and Felipe, for the great panel, and Robert for moderating for sure. What I want to leave behind to the audience is that Cisco's experience and commitment to the U.S. federal government customers who are already on Cisco SD-WAN, and for others that are looking to move to SD-WAN, is evident with our products being on the DOTA and APL, the existing availability of FISMA compliance offering via our managed service providers, our introduction of SD-WAN for government, which is in the final step of the FedRAMP moderate process, which already has multiple customers running their networks, our dedication to FIPS validation, TA compliance, support for various enterprise certificate authorities in all parts of their solutions, heavy IPv6 support, AI to predict challenges and assist in troubleshooting, which is currently shipping in our product, our openness to publish our management protocol via the IETF, and a commitment to work with customers to make sure the whole ecosystems of Cisco products is integrated, giving the agencies the strongest secure SD-WAN solution on the market, in my opinion. The experience that Cisco brings as an SD-WAN vendor, the scalability of our solution to support small networks to over 10,000 nodes, the efficacy of our security, which is independently verified by market leading, is powered by the Cisco Talos Intelligence Group, and our existing deployment of network devices that can be configured to run Cisco SD-WAN enable an agency to feel confident in partnering with Cisco. So thanks again for the time.
Definitely. And John, take it away.
Thank you. So again, appreciate the opportunity to speak to the audience and participate in the panel. It's been fantastic, I believe. So our fundamental message is, is your solution AI native? Was AI sort of an afterthought, or was the solution truly architected to leverage AI tools from the ground up? Is it a full stack solution? Can you provide, is it really built around providing user experience? The network is there to deliver applications to users, and if you don't have an idea of how the user experience is going, then the network is not doing its job. So, can you provide insights into that user experience? Can you leverage those insights, process, save time with AI through a native AI solution? What happens when, say, the solution is disconnected from data centers, from cloud? Is it survivable? Disconnected, degraded operations? This is critical. Session Smart, we truly believe in Session Smart technology. We developed the product from the ground up to be Session Smart. That's true innovation. Juniper has a history of innovation for over 25 years in networking and routing, and Session Smart, we believe, is absolutely critical for your next generation network to give you all those user insights. And so, we feel really strong and optimistic about the industry and our product and solution going forward.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we are a little bit over, but I wanted to get everybody's last thoughts there. Again, Don, Felipe, Tom, thank you so much for coming. This was very valuable. I learned a lot. And on behalf of the ACT-IAC Network and Telecommunications community of interest, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And Lee and Stephen, thank you for the opening. And please watch the recording. This is a great session, and keep watching for more ACT-IAC network and telecommunication events in the future. Thank you very much. Take it easy, folks.
Thanks.